functions. The one on the left readied the rifle to fire, and the one on the right actually discharged the bullet. Jake was fond of saying that the finger pressure required to operate the right trigger was equal to that of a weak butterfly's heartbeat. Jake eased the sharps from its wrap and raised it to firing position. The weight of the rifle, slightly over 8 pounds, and the precisely cut butt that tucked tightly to Jake's shoulder provided a stability, a sense of unity, of oneness between man and weapon that Sinclair had experienced with no other rifle. Not the Spencer, not the Henry, not the Winchester. The rich scent of the polished cherry woodstock and the tang of gun oil brought an unconscious half-smile to Jake's face. He reached forward and flicked up the ladder sight, mounted at the end of the octagonal barrel. The barely audible click, the sound of quality craftsmanship. He estimated the shot at 2,000 feet. He'd make no allowance for wind. There wasn't any. It was a middling long shot, from the tree to where the target sat atop his horse. The humidity could have an effect on the slug, dropping the trajectory a tad more rapidly than normal. Jake made the slightest adjustment to the height of the barrel. It was impossible for Sinclair's naked eye to make out any actual features of the target, other than the blue of his uniform. A headshot would be difficult, but the officer's chest and body were essentially a sure thing. Jake wet his lips with his tongue and drew in a long breath. His right index finger tugged the left trigger home and moved to rest ever so gently against the curve of the right. He released the breath, drew another not quite as deep, and fired. The Union officer was plucked from the back of his horse as neatly and as cleanly as he would have been had an invisible giant's hand snatched him. A barely discernible reddish mist floated momentarily in the air where the man had been, and then it too was gone. The briefest bit of a second later, the horse, riderless now, reared. Vague blue forms disappeared behind the cannon as soldiers scrambled for cover. The report was thunderous but familiar, as was the stinging blowback from the breech that tickled Sinclair's face like a swarm of insects. The thick smoke of the discharge rose slowly, lazily toward the top of the tree, its pungency sharp in Jake's nose, leaving a metallic taste like that of blood on his tongue and in his mouth. "Good," Uriah said. "Right nice shooting, Jake." "That's why President Davis pays me all that money," Jake grinned. He glanced upward and his smile disappeared. "Get down," he snapped, rewrapping the sharps and tying a horsehair cord around it, sling fashion. "That smoke is going to hang there like a finger pointing at us. Come on, move." Uriah hustled down the tree, using the trunk and branches as hand and footholds to keep himself from falling through the foliage to the stony ground below. He dropped the last 6 or so feet, landing lightly, immediately stretching his arms upward to receive the rifle Sinclair was lowering. When the sharps was secure in Toole's arms, Jake scrambled downward, less gracefully but more rapidly than his partner had, almost in a free fall, clutching branches to slow his descent rather than using them to lower himself. His boots had barely touched soil when the tree began to disintegrate. Leaves, twigs, and chunks of bark exploded from branches that seemed to be in the grip of hurricane winds, shaking, swinging wildly, some fracturing under the onslaught and tumbling to the ground. A large caliber slug slammed into the upper trunk, gouging away a slab of wood the size of a dinner plate. Another burst of canister. Tiny steel balls fulminated outward from exploding shells, shook the tree, tearing more pieces from it. Both men huddled behind a boulder on the side opposite the onslaught. "That Yankee sharpshooter isn't bad," Jake commented. "His round would have taken me down as sure as you're born." After a moment he added admiringly, "Good eye." "Light artilleryman ain't so bad either," Uriah said. "He's purely tearing the piss out of that old tree."